Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In our last character for the day one showcases, we have Dory. Now Dory of course is not very popular in terms of their character and or pick rate in the TCG, but there is a little bit of nuance, and I will still of course do my due diligence to see what this character can do in the game. So let's quickly take a look, and I'll talk about her kit of course as we get into the match, because that's how this thing goes. But let's take a look at the two decks that I have here today. We have two things from two players. One from Ren the Lupercal, NA player, and I think this is actually the deck that works the best in terms of what Dory is capable of. And also another one which is a bit of a test list, but it still has, I think it still works out for the most part, is Kevin Z's $5. Called here we go, because of course that's how Dory does what Dory does. She takes your cash and then she runs away. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at what we can do with these decks. So let's go ahead and slide over into our replays right here. And Prince, how's it going? And let's jump into the save. I actually did a lot of Dory matches, but I really actually only have two that I really want to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started with the Nahida, Daya, and Dory deck. Here we go. Now let's start talking about what Dory actually does in the TCG. So, right here, we'll speed through this real quick. And Dory is an Electro unit with a Claymore, and otherwise, she has some very interesting summons. She's got two of them. So, once we get past the dice roll, I'll start talking about it as the match goes on. Here we go. Okay, so, her skill, Spirit Warding Lamp. It deals 2 electro damage to the active character, and it'll shoot out a summon after server sale rounds, which do 1 electro damage at the end phase. Now that doesn't seem, it doesn't seem like a lot, but there is a bit more to it in my opinion. And I think the biggest thing of course is that people will immediately draw the comparison to is Fischl. And Fischl, she does 1 damage, and then her Oz stays for 2 turns, and her Oz instead tastes for 2 turns, and that's kind of the big difference. Dory will get more immediate damage up front, which I think is pretty key, and then has the after service sales rounds which come out and just apply electro. So that's what that does, and I think in general that is it's pretty important to have characters who can deal on-field damage, and that's why I think Dory has a little bit of nuance, because the other Electro summon character being Yaimiko does not do damage when she summons, very similar to Daya. This thing doesn't do damage unless you skill twice, and even Yaimiko doesn't do that. It does a tripwire after, so you have to wait for that basically. But yeah, and we'll get to the burst later, but yeah, you're not necessarily going to be using Dory for her skill. The actual reason is you're going to use her burst. But yeah, I did just want to talk about it. It's good for setting up reactions you can do. People talk about overload into the overload starters with summons, which they're very useful because it forces people to swap and also does a significant amount of damage, like I did to Shenhe over here earlier. Now we are going to start talking about the burst, and it will actually come into play in this replay later. However, her burst is the most interesting part of her kit, and the reason being is because it is not a burst that does damage, which is pretty rare. The only other burst I can really think of off the top of my head that doesn't do damage is Barbara, and what it does here is that it'll deal 1 electro damage immediately, so that's first off a bonus. If your burst does damage directly, I think that is pretty key. But the other part is that in the end phase, your Genie will heal your active character for 2 HP, and your character will also gain 1 energy. And 1 energy, you say? Well, not only is that similar to her kit in the main game, but it also is a mechanic that really has not been messed with outside of the Raiden Shogun. And well, technically there's Razor Talent, but nobody can run Razor Talent. But yeah, and this is kind of like the big quintessential thing that people really want to mess with. And I've seen people do a lot of stuff with it in terms of maybe using it for stall decks and stuff, and that does kind of seem the direction to be that this summon leans in. And it is a little hard though to get it to work, because of course you need to actually build up to said burst and then drop it. And even though after service sales round does direct damage, it does 2 damage and drops your extra summon, it is very difficult to get out, and as a result making sure Genie can do the trick is pretty important. Now we're actually going to see where having 2 damage is going to matter, because once I do this, and now she takes damage from Nahida Seeds, she is actually going to be at lethal when I do this. Yep, because I tuned 1 Gamblers, drop another one for funsies, didn't get to use Nahida's burst, boom, and now Aika is done so. Bye-bye. Let's go. I actually go ahead and pause and kind of try to explain this deck. So this is Kevin Z. Kevin Z, you know, very well known for making artifacts. A much more prevalent as soon as they made Saramona, which I think is the sauce. That's why you got to pay him $5, you know. But anyway, so the basics of this deck is that Daya is Daya. She's gonna do damage reduction, and she's gonna do damage reduction. You know, keep your people alive and have a consistent pyro application. Now I'm pretty sure the correct way to play this is, you know, after you get these 2 summons out, you want to get Nahida to grab any of those Dendro artifacts that were slotted into the deck, and, you know, make a maximum usage of it. Of course, Nahida does what Nahida do, apply your Seeds of Skanda to each character so that they continuously take damage from, you know, the Electro and Pyro summons. And I think ideally, you know, Nahida being Nahida, you want to keep her alive, but of course most players aren't going to let that happen, so they're going to target her and slice her out immediately, and that's why there's so many Dendro artifacts in there, so you can make sure you can get your 5 cost and or at least 3 cost out, because that's super duper important, because, you know, as you can see, it was able to secure a lethal on Ayaka over here. And then in the end game, there is WGS, which you actually will see in a moment, but Daya and Dori can kind of take the wheel pretty much from there. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I just, you know, like, we get the kid out of the way, but otherwise that is what this deck does. And now Dori is actually out of the picture, but that is okay, because we are going to see very quickly why I do enjoy Dori summon, and it'll be better showcased in the stall one. But here we go. We're hitting end phase. Genie and both troubleshooter shots are out. Kazuha's gonna do what Kazuha does, aka nothing. I'm just kidding. All right, so we'll slow down here. There we go. You see it right there. Genie healed me for 2 HP and also gave me an energy. And I also have a very fun card in hand, which is completely overkill, mind you. But it is going to be a good situation for the end game here. You know, we'll just get past the dice real quick. There we go. All right, and just for maximum BM, I decided to tune that, drop WGS and drop the burst, and Kazuha is done for. And yeah, without something like that, you know, Genie being the, you know, one of the few summons that doesn't do damage but is really here to provide you benefit, and that energy gain is definitely an interesting concept that can be played with, because right now, of course, we have, you know, the only other character who's doing this directly in their base kit is the Raiden Shogun, right? And when it comes to the Raiden Shogun, the thing is that she's pretty locked into a normal playstyle where you burst immediately, and, you know, we'll see that in the next game, but realistically, that's kind of all Raiden does. You really don't use her for the end game, even though they have a mechanic built around using her in the end game. It's really difficult to ever do that, and that's why Dori is possibly an interesting stall character. And I'll quickly actually, I think I did earlier, I was supposed to click on the decks, but yeah, here's Ren's deck, which we'll be showcasing next, and specifically uses Dori talent, because that's what I want to do, and a lot of healing, an interesting combination of Liar Song and Ocean Clam. And of course, let's take a Kevin's real quick. Nahida, Dori, and we've got all the stuff here. Of course, I will be showing these after, and also having the codes available for all of you to try it. But let's move on to the stall version from Ren the Lupercal. Let's take a look here in my dual replays. And so I actually did play a lot of matches, like I mentioned earlier. I played 1, 2, 3, and just dozens more, because honestly, I mean, I actually like this like deck. It feels very nice. You know, it's not amazing, of course, because it is a double Hydro Core. You know, I played this with Lisa Eggs, but yeah, I was able to take down this Razor OTK. So let's get started in looking at how this is going to do. Now, taking a look at this version of the deck instead with stall, is that, you know, it's stall. It's supposed to, you have double Hydro, you know, for Hydro Resonance, and you can really just tire out your opponent, which in theory it would be pretty bad for this deck. Now, the difference here is that I'm gonna make sure to have Mona Burst, so that any of these characters, you know, especially Razor, can take significant damage, and I can just wipe him out in one shot. So we'll be seeing that showcase in a little bit. But also the reason why I want to showcase this deck is that it makes really good use of Dory talent, and Dory talent is actually something that I personally really enjoy about the character. So let's go ahead and take a read here. You know, I'll put the text on screen for you guys. Here we go. So you summon the genie, of course, and one of the bonus that you get is that Dory, who has this card equipped, heals 1 more HP when healing characters with no more than 6 HP. So if you're, you know, if you're below 6 HP, then you get to heal for 3 instead, and that's definitely really good because, you know, having that from a summon for 2 turns and it heals 3 HP, 3 HP is a lot. Like, there's a reason like why Hash Browns, even itself, only healing 2 HP is able to get you past certain breakpoints. But yeah, that is not the only thing that happens because and increases the amount of energy gained by characters with no energy when energy is 1, and we will see that showcase a little later. But yeah, being able to, you know, freely regain 2 energy is also a pretty big deal because, you know, of course, characters have 2 energy bursts like, you know, Candace and Razor, and just in general a lot of characters. And being able to do that, you know, you're effectively playing Raiden because that's kind of why, you know, people play her. And, you know, I do mostly care about the fact that you get 3 healing because, you know, especially in a stall deck like this, you know, 3 healing matters a lot, and there aren't a lot of characters who can do that much, or even food that does as much anyway. But yeah, so this deck, you know, we're gonna go on for a while. I'll kind of talk about my game plan from here. So of course I knew they were gonna swap out Raiden, so I just let them do it because there's no point in trying to fish for a Raiden kill if they're not gonna let me do it. Here it looks like I high roll because I'm just a gamer. That's so awesome. And now I drop in Dory talent, and yeah, like once again, like having a support burst which also does damage, you know, like it is pretty good. Because support bursts are very few and far between. Like, you know, for example, Barbara over here, who does, you know, heals whole AoE heal, but you know, you need 3/3, it's a lot. And yeah, that's the thing I mentioned earlier, Mona talent, and here talent comes into play. I heal 3 and I also gain 2 energy. Mona is ready to burst again, and that is terrifying. If I had another energy card here, I could be threatening Razor with a Mona burst twice. And, you know, what does that mean? How much damage am I going to deal? Well, let's take a look. I have double damage from Stellar Phantasmus, and I deal 4 damage on base. So I will deal 8 damage, and if I apply Electro, I will deal 9 damage. That's a lot of damage. But yeah, no, I intentionally played around this so that Razor is now significantly threatened, and now, yeah, Ghost is running away because that's going to be a big problem. Mona super duper potent with getting any form of damage boost because now she can just take out Raiden and also put Candace in significant danger. Good move, you know, refresh the burst, but of course I am here and with my abundance of healing to bully you. So we got Cathedral. I mean, just watch this, you know. Actually, wait, no, I think Razor's gonna go beast mode, right? Yeah. Okay, never mind. It would have been funnier. It would have been funnier if I got Dory burst again. But Razor's gonna tear me up. But that is okay because I ultimately accomplished my goal and kind of showcasing here why Genie is kind of the part of Dory's kit that people are really interested in. And, you know, potentially the thing that will actually become relevant in the future. Now, yeah, we're about to end the round out. You know, I would have showcased more. Oh yeah, they conceded. I forgot about that. I would showcase more about Dory, but I really don't have much to say, like, as we go kind of into the outro section of this video. But you know, here we go. Here's the deck. You know, I'll post these up on screen, but there really isn't too much to say about Dory. You know, I think this skill, and something we actually talked about in the podcast, for our 4.2 podcast, you can go ahead and check that out, you know, on our live streams tab or in the playlist. But the biggest thing that the TCs pointed out, both Sean and Matt Mario, is that, you know, the fact that sure you deal 2 damage, right, and you get a little summon, but the fact that this healing is not on demand really negates her from actually properly playing stall. And, you know, of course, it doesn't do it in the base game, doesn't do it in the main game, but it's why the comparisons when you draw it to someone like Baiju, who gets the Gossamer Sprite, you know, same thing on his end. He deals damage, you know, not as much damage, of course, but, you know, once the Gossamer Sprite is down, only lasts 1 turn, but it heals the character, and that is kind of the most important key about, you know, making these, you know, making characters who want to try out playing Stall, especially if you're not Hydro. You know, these two characters are outside of that. But, you know, still, I think there is a usage in which you can you know, you can use Dory in some form. You know, this definitely hurts a little bit, and I think being able to get her burst out is definitely the way to go when it comes to Dory. But yeah, that's honestly all I have to say about, you know, Dory. It's a bit of a shorter showcase, I know, and like, you know, I did that on purpose because there really isn't too much to talk about in my opinion. But here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the cards on the screen right now. Let me just go find them. Here we go. So here's the two deck lists. In the comments and description, there will be a pinned comment where you can copy these codes immediately. Of course, a big thanks to Ren and Kevin for these decks. This one was played in tournament, and then Kevin just like that one I picked up from him. But otherwise, that's kind of it. And do keep in mind that we do actually have our tournaments coming up this weekend. So if you are interested in joining us, you can sign up right here. The schedule is gonna cover my face. Yeah, it's week 3, and we have our new LCQ last chance qualifier. So, you know, if you're really close to making it to majors, then this, you know, this is your chance. If you haven't been able to, if you've just been right there. So we will see what happens. But otherwise, you know, once again, here is the checklist. That's pretty much all there is. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later and join the server. Goodbye.